a loser.
I know.
Words hurt.
To some people, words can be just as hurtful and injurious as actions.
That we do have limits on free speech. Some people have been acting over the last week as if there is an absolute untrammeled right to say whatever you like, whenever you like. That's not true. There are legal limits and there are moral limits. Forget things we ban. There are things we just don't say out of taste, out of decency. Sorry to be crude, but you have the right to fart in a crowded lift. You just don't do it, though, do you?
Freaking freedom of speech. The problem is, because we have this lovely freedom, people tend to think that it means that you should use it all the time. I don't understand where people get off thinking that what they have to say needs to be said. And I felt the need to express my feelings.
I don't understand where people get off thinking that what they have to say needs to be said.
Express my feelings. Freaking freedom of speech.
Thank you, yes. Well, with rights go responsibilities, and whilst there may be the right for Charlie Hebdo to offend, they didn't necessarily need and perhaps had the responsibility not to be offensive in the way they were this week. I felt that they were gratuitously provocative and will upset the moderate Muslim community.
Free speech is good, but I think I found Charlie Hebdo much more offensive. I think it was not a free speech, it was more offensive in targeting Islam and targeting Muhammad. I think that was very offensive rather than a free speech, I will say.
It makes me sick hearing what the Attorney-General said in Parliament yesterday, basically saying it's okay to be a bigot.
Do you think he has a right to say it?
Well, but it makes me sick because I think, where are we heading as a country to say it is all right to make racist comments about people and
but Jess, I
assume
understand
that
what you're saying.
Okay.
Why this?
But why does to me, why is it all right to insult someone on the basis of their race or their ethnic background?
It's not all right, it just shouldn't be illegal.
Is it all right or is it illegal? Is
It
part
should
of the
be
problem.
illegal, I think.
I think one of the problems we need to understand is that the powerful need to be very considerate about their freedom of speech because it can actually, their freedom of speech can actually silence the powerless.
I think we need to be aware of the fact that free speech comes with responsibilities. Any right comes with a responsibility, and rights can only be constituted within a defined area where they can be enforced. The whole notion seems to be that freedom of speech is some kind of absolute right. And that's exactly the same as a religious point of view.
And as to free expression, total freedom of expression is as ludicrous an asserted right as is the saying, I must never be upset by anything. And that
freedom of speech doesn't give us the right to offend, discriminate, hurt, hate, tolerate, or bully, because freedom comes with responsibilities.
I've had people jump all over my ass and say that I'm pro-censorship because I think somebody going on Twitter and calling them, just spewing racial slurs all over the place with no substance whatsoever. They say I'm all pro-censorship because I think that they should be blocked. You know what? Fine. I don't know how to change your mind on that. But I think that they are essentially worthless, and I don't think I'm in the minority there.
The message is very simple. Freedom of expression has some limits. You cannot simply, spread the message of hate and say that, this is the freedom of expression. It has to be condemned on all levels, whether it is, Australia or whether it is United States. We have to protest that, freedom of expression does not mean that you insult people.
Freedom of expression means you don't hurt the other ones. And this kind of movies that hurt the Muslims. So this is not right. If you are doing in your limits, this is all right. So this is the point. You don't hurt the other ones.
Anyone who holds this position that they defend all speech no matter what is either crazy or a liar. Because in reality, speech is controlled and always should be controlled. There should always be limits. What we should do is come up with a definition of what speech should be free and what speech should not be free. Because there's no one who really believes in this ultimate freedom of speech, because it just doesn't exist. The enemy should never have free speech. The enemy is not entitled to have free speech. That's the whole point of a dictatorship of the proletariat, is to hammer down the bourgeois, confiscate their property, ban the landlords, prevent them from having free speech.
Yelled out the window, "You Indian piece of S-word."
It starts with words, it starts with a frame of mind and a mentality that other people are lesser than you, and then it'll get to a point where people's lives are at stake and people's lives are endangered by this type of mentality that we allow to continue.
If it's supposed to be derogatory in any way towards someone or a group of people, then it's hate speech.
They have the choice whether they choose to agree or disagree, but for them to be mocking my religion or my prophet, peace be upon him, on campus or across the nation, that is something that is unacceptable.
The word censorship often has a negative connotation, and it doesn't have to be that way. Censorship can be beneficial in certain circumstances. This is why we all have to keep an eye out for when government censorship oversteps its bounds and ceases to be beneficial.
It doesn't guarantee you the right to have to dispel your drivel, really, just untruths, to impressionable minds with a mic, an amplifier, and an audience of impressionable students.
What are you
So if she wants to speak, that's fine, but she doesn't get to have the forum of our public universities paid for by my and your taxes to disseminate that information. That's just not right.